Alright, welcome to another review, and today's review is going to be an RDA. This is the Aladdin RDA by Kaees. Got it right now on top of a Therion squonker. And I received this device by winning a contest put on by Heaven's Gifts and ELR, E-Liquid Recipes Forum. And just received it here, I don't know, about a week ago. So it's time to take a look at it. Let's see what we got. Here is the box that you will receive your Kaees Aladdin RDA in. Kaees Aladdin RDA triple airflow. I got a little face on the front there. On the bottom, Kaees. On the side, Aladdin RDA. On the other top, I guess, Kaees. And then on this side, we have the fact that it's stainless steel. We have a scratch and sniff. We have made in China, etc., etc., etc. On the bottom of the box, we have Aladdin RDA, what it's all about, what the kit comes with, and that the fact that the product contains nicotine, which is highly addictive substance. I had no idea that they put nicotine in these. I really don't think that's true. So, now, we'll open up the box. And on the inside we have a giveaway. You can win a t-shirt or a hat from Kaees. And on the back, little card telling you about the RDA itself. Inside of the box, let's start with the goodie bag. Pop that right on out of there. And in the goodie bag, I have got the Allen wrench. I've got some O-rings. I've got a coil. I've got some extra grub screws, and I've got another positive pin for the bottom. The positive pin in here, and you can see that's a regular slotted straight screwdriver slot for that one. That's not for squonking, and that's the one it comes with. I squonk, so I've already put in the squonk pin in this RDA. The RDA itself, we've got our little face there on the front. There's some real nice knurling here on the top. We've got 3 different airflows, a top airflow, a side airflow, and a bottom airflow. They also build this out as a 360-degree airflow. On the very top of the unit, we've got what looks to be an 810 drip tip. It is not. It's a 510. There's your 2 O-rings for the 510. Now, there's a reason for that. I'll show you that in a second. This is Delron, obviously. We can pop off the top, and the reason becomes real clear real quick. These are the 2 slots where they bring in the side airflow, and obviously there's not enough room for an 810 drip tip left with those 2 slots in there. Looking at the top of the next piece, here are 4 holes cut on the sides, drilled through to bring in that top airflow. And pulling the actual vapor chamber off, you can see that it's domed. There's our 4 holes for that top airflow, and here's our 2 slots. If I can get this thing to focus better, 1 on each side. Okay, for the side airflow. Now that side airflow corresponds to holes that are actually in the posts. So yours is going to go straight through there and hit the coil directly from the side, both sides obviously. Now the bottom airflow, you know, 2 slots, 1 on each side. That actually comes up through these 4 air holes off to the side, but to the bottom of the coil. Okay, feeding air to the bottom of the coil. And then you notice that this is, there's no hole in here. The squonk pin actually feeds through a hole on each side Okay, you squonk, it'll feed evenly through those two, and it'll fill your juice wells real nice where your coil, or actually where your cotton is naturally going to sit, and does a real nice job. To hold down the coil itself, our grub screws, we've got a couple of slots here. You slip your coil ends into those slots and screw the grub screws down. This is, I guess, if this RDA has a challenge, this would be it. You have to kind of hold the end of the coil up against here as you tighten these down, because the grub screws, as they spin, they'll have a tendency to want to shove or squish those ends of the coil out, depending on what kind of a build you've got in there. But there is plenty of space. They're recessed a little bit back in, so there's plenty of space to cut it without the ends of it actually shorting out against the addy itself. The O-rings, although they're a little tight right now on between these two pieces, I think they're a real nice fit. I think with time they're going to loosen up and do real well. There is slotting to this. Okay, you'll feel that as you spin it, and it'll pop back down. That allows this not to turn too far. Okay, there's stoppers for your side airflow. Okay, on the top airflow, there's no stoppers whatsoever. Your airflow is open when this hole is aligned with the bottom hole. Okay, that's when it's open. Turn to the side is when it's closed. And you can actually see in there, you can see when that, kind of where that hole opens up. Okay, into the rest of the machining there. So that's pretty much it for the Addy. Next thing I want to do is actually do a build on this guy, just because I've never did a build on camera before, and I'm gonna put you through that and me through that too. So, oh, one other thing, it does have a fairly decent protrusion on the bottom of that pin, so I'm guessing it wouldn't be too much of a problem to use this thing with the hybrid mech mod. And then, of course, I'm kind of remembering some of these things as I go along. The other thing that folks are often interested in is what's the size of this thing. Okay, so what we've got as far as size, the diameter is just barely over 24 millimeters. The height, not including the 510 pin on the bottom or the drip tip, is 23, and then all the way to the top, 29.6. So between 29 and 30. It's a really compact little Addy. There's no doubt about it. It's a shorty. So okay, build up next. Okay, so I've prepared it already. I've got it on an ohm meter here, 521 tab, and first thing I want to make mention of, looking down in between here where the coil is going to sit, you've kind of got a choice. The way the coil ends are going to lay in there, they're going to lay in there about here. Okay, so you can either have the coil underneath the leads or over top the leads. Now the first one I built it so the coil set down underneath the leads. So this one I want to build so it's going to set on top. So to do that, I'm going to want to take my jig, okay, and I'm going to want to start one end. It's going to slip into that one slot and then come up and over for each one of my winds. So I've got one full wind, two, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to make it a 6 wind coil. Now I'm going to spread this apart just a little bit. Give it a little bit of a tighten and then mash it back down against there. Bounce it a couple times. as I like using a space coil, and that gives a fairly decent space coil. This is stainless steel. I also like using temperature control. I build my coils out of stainless steel. This is some I buzzed up myself. It's the core of it is 2 strands of 30 gauge stainless steel, and then it's got a Clapton wire wound around it, a 36 gauge. And that way this will yield a little bit of a resistance for me. I like to have a little bit of resistance in a coil, obviously to make the battery last for a little while. And I also, as I mentioned already, I like to use temperature control. So okay, I'm going to get this, fairly well centered in here. And like I said in the other video, earlier in the video, I'm going to press that up against there. This may be a little hard to see. I'm going to use a rather large screwdriver and tighten that down a little bit. There we go. Get that kind of set in there. And then move this just off to the side a little bit so I can get that screwdriver in there just a little bit better. Get this guy tightened down. I'm throwing some nasty shadows on there, aren't I? Alright, and obviously I'm using a coiling rod to kind of keep it centered just a little bit. Move off camera just a hair and finish tightening that one down. Alright, so what do we got? Pretty well centered. And looking across the top, looks pretty even. Looking down through the side of it, pretty well centered. And the way the airflow is going to hit on this, I don't know, a little hard to see again with some of the shadowing, but that side airflow is going to hit side and just a hair under it this way. In fact, it's almost dead on side right now. I think I could pick that up just a tad. There's obviously enough spring in the stainless steel that it's easy enough to raise just a little bit. Yeah, that's where I want it. Pretty close. Pretty close. I want it coming across the bottom third of that coil, that airflow. Yeah, it's hitting right at the bottom third of that. I don't know if you can see the slots there well enough, but it's hitting right at the bottom third of the coil, and then swirling. It should swirl just up underneath there. So got that in place, and like I said before, it's pretty easy to work with. You got enough space here, you can get right in up there and clip the ends of your coil off without any problems, and have enough space. Make sure that enough space here on the side, and make sure that you're not going to hit the dome as it comes up the side of that. It's a real simple to build deck to work with. Like I say, with the exception of the fact that you got to kind of watch those ends to make sure they stay seated underneath the grub screws. Now the next thing, get some cotton here, and my eyeball says about right there for a 3.5 millimeter coil. I do peel off my outer layers, and I do kind of go through and pull off whatever fuzzies I've got. I like to leave it pretty loose. I'll give it a little roll here in the center just to give it a roundness instead of a flatness. I don't roll a heck of a lot. And then of course pinch off the end because I have to have something small enough to feed through that coil. Give that a real good tight wind and feed that right on through. Now that's pretty doggone tight, which is good. That's where I want it. Kind of feed that through enough that I got a good solid amount of cotton on each side. That's looking good. Judging the depth of that juice well, I'm going to cut it right about here and about the same spot on the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and fluff this up real nice on both sides. And maybe I'll just give it a little light combing as well. I just really like to make sure that the ends of that coil, it's open for capillary action, and they'll suck that juice up just real nice. Yeah, that was a little tight in the end. So just a little bit of a comb out to make sure those ends are opened up real nice. Slice off the fuzzies. And then of course take the ends, drop them right down into those juice wells. I guess that wasn't too horrific of a thing to go through on a camera. Everything's tough when you're doing it upside down and backwards, that's for sure. So, okay, let's grab a little bit of e-juice. Figures I grab an empty bottle first. Okay. Use some home brew here. Kind of a strawberry blend. And make a mess. I'm good at that. I can make messes all day long. As you can see. But as we know, the whole concept is to get that all wet down. Get a little into the bottom there, into the juice well as well. And while we're at it, won't hurt a bit to check our resistance. Wow, 0.75, I like that. Let's see how it does. That'll do pretty decent. Okay, take the cap, line it up with the air holes, push it back down, snap right into place. Okay, unscrew this guy. All set with that. Should be all set. One thing I didn't mention in here, and I didn't show the bottom of the addy. I mean, not much to see in the bottom of an addy. It is protruding, so and the regular squonk, or the regular positive pin, protrudes just as much as the squonking one does. So it can use it on a hybrid, no problems there. And the squonk pin itself, pretty impressed with this too. What they did is they recessed the Allen screw, and it's the same size Allen screw as your grub screw, so you can use the same little wrench. They recessed it in there so that this whole thing is unbroken all the way around the edges, which helps to make a seal on your squonker, makes it a lot nicer. So, okay, with that, I'm gonna obviously clean it up a little bit, get everything lined up, and we'll try vaping it, and we'll finish talking about it. Okay, so what have we got here? We have got a single coil RDA with a very unique airflow from the top, middle, and bottom. This RDA is very adaptable to either dripping or squonking. A10 drip tip. The airflow itself, I think most of the airflow is coming through the side airflow. That's the way it seems to me. And then a reduced amount from the top and the bottom. I'm finding that if you shut off both the top and the middle airflow, it's a very restrictive vape with just the bottom airflow on. It's nigh on to mouth to lung, real close to mouth to lung. With all of them open, it's a very, very airy vape. I'd have to say that it's really close to the kind of air that you get through a goon. I like to vape it with one of the two little airflows on the top open, in other words, the top half closed, and then the center open, and of course the bottom you have no choice, it stays open. I get real good flavor that way. I get good cloud production. Now, out of the two builds that I did, the one with the coil facing down and the one with the coil facing up, what I found was exactly what a gentleman has been publishing on his YouTube channel. The gentleman's name is a Martin Owen. The YouTube channel, I believe, is named Owen Vapes. And this gentleman put together a number of airflow chambers and put a vacuum actually on the top of it, and was able to film the air movement within inside of this thing, and obviously the air movement going over coils as well. And it was really neat. It showed a lot of things that I don't think are conventional understanding of how the airflow goes inside of an Addy. But at any rate, with the coil down, I was getting a denser vape, more actual vapor being developed, and then with the coil up and the airflow basically coming up and underneath it, not quite as much of a dense vape, but I do like the flavor better, and so I'm sticking with the coil up option. The vape itself, it's a decent cloud. The flavor is excellent. There's no doubt about that. I don't know that I'd have to really vape it for quite a while and back and forth with the other Addies. It's right on the top, in the top heap of all the RDAs that I have. Is it the very best that I have? I don't really feel comfortable in saying that. But it is a very, very good flavor on this thing. Being a single coil, of course, it's not going to be a vapor monster or a cloud chaser necessarily. Being a single coil, it does allow you to, especially with stainless steel for myself, and using temperature control, it does allow you to get some resistance in that build. You've got enough room in there to get some resistance, which obviously is nice for my batteries on the mod. I don't have to change them out so often. It squonks real well. Every squonk I get, quite a few vapes out of the thing. You can make it leak. You can over squonk to the point where it can leak, but it does not leak easily. Outside of that, I don't know that I have a whole lot to say about it, other than to wind it up by again thanking eLiquid Recipes. The forum, very nice forum, especially obviously if you want a DIY juice, just a wonderful place to get involved with. And then of course Heaven's Gifts. Heaven's Gifts did also make mention that they'd like to have a review of this, so here it is, Heaven's Gifts, for you, and thank you. So with that, I'm out of here. Hasta luego.